Coogs House. The Houston Cougars may be on Christmas vacation, but they got a basketball game tonight.
You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Coogs, daily podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth, here to break down all things Cougs. If you're a U of H fan or just a hater who came to by, and in terms of basketball, I think there are a few of you. Please be sure to subscribe down below. That way you can listen to Cougs in your newsfeed each and every day. We should make Locked On Coogs your first listen of the day. If you found us on YouTube, welcome back to the YouTube channel. It is so good to see you again. Be sure to subscribe because we're doing a giveaway every 250 subscribers, and the next one of those is at 2,000. So please subscribe, help us get there. Like and comment on the video to let us know that you're in the contest. If you're talking about basketball this whole time, you just don't know what to say, tell us what is on your wish list for Santa. Now, I have to say, as we sit here, we are going to talk some about Terrance Arceneaux in today's episode. We're going to talk some about this stigma about not playing anyone that bugs me enough to talk about it for a whole segment. And then the third and final segment is going to be talking about the Texas State game on Thursday night. So, if you're listening to this on Friday, I guess, tell us how it went. But what I do want to say in a couple here is that talking about Terrance Arceneaux and his injury is really, really it sucks. It just sucks. But I want to give an update and then talk through, frankly, from a basketball standpoint, how they move forward, right? How the Houston Cougars will move forward. Obviously, I would also put this out there before I jump too far into this thing, that if you're looking for more on signing day, there's another episode the exact same day being released all about how signing day went. So go check that out in the feed wherever you found this podcast. So on, Tuesday, Kelvin Sampson confirmed that the Achilles tendon of Terrance Arceneaux did get torn in the Texas A&M game on Saturday, and then reported that he would have surgery on Wednesday. Wednesday's surgery looks like it went okay. I got sent a picture of Terrance rolling himself on a scooter into the facility. He posted a picture, someone I don't know, I assume it was him, a picture of himself in the medical garb, the surgery went well. It sounds like things all went well from that standpoint. So we're happy about that for Terrance. Now, there's thought that he may be able to come back and do some workout kind of stuff in the summer. As far as full contact basketball goes, I'd imagine you're looking at a year. I will say, if there's any silver lining in this, it's early enough in the 2023-24 season that you could see him back for the 2024-25 season, just because if you see it takes about a year to get back into full contact basketball, everything is going well. The bigger hindrance, I imagine, though, is that guys that have had this injury, and luckily, knock on wood, never had it myself, guys that have had this injury will talk about how, you might be back to playing full contact basketball within a year, but it's more like 2 before you're back to being like yourself, right? And so I imagine it's a while until we see the Terrance we all know and love in his best form, but we're cheering him on the whole time, obviously, and we're hoping for the best. Glad to see and hear the surgery went well. TA. Now, Kelvin mentioned in his press conference on Tuesday that the most immediate name to step in the rotation and play more for him is beloved Ramon Walker. Now, we saw Ramon Walker kind of in and out of the line at the start of last season, and frankly, we saw him in the lineup to start last season, then had to take a leave of absence and get a medical redshirt for some stuff going on last year. I look at Ramon Walker's impact in this season kind of interestingly in the opposite. He didn't get in a whole lot in the first part of the season, and now he's going to be fairly vital to what's going on. One of the things Terrance did really well as a guard was cover people bigger than him, play great defense, go get the rebounds, etc. And while he had a more refined or finely tuned offensive game than Ramon Walker does, Ramon does a lot of the same things defensively. And honestly, as I look at this Houston Cougar basketball team, that's probably the more glaring thing missing when Terrance goes out, right? Is having a guard that can do those kinds of not guard defensive things. Now, Ramon has played in 9 of the 11 games, so he's not even gotten into every game necessarily. He's not averaging a whole lot of minutes, just 10 minutes per game this season. But in 2021-22, it is worth pointing out that he frankly kind of filled in a very similar role. And he had a couple guys go down hurt. He stepped in and played a lot more minutes, had that like crucial diving for the ball rebound against Wichita State. I mean, like, had great moments in that season being that hustle play guy. He's not a high scoring guy, never going to be a high scoring guy. If he gives you 2 baskets in a basketball game, that's a big deal. But he does all of the other things. And I think that it's a very natural fit because that's what they're going to be missing with Terrance more so than the other stuff. But I don't think they're going to not miss the other stuff. So where do you see them pick up the offense side of things? I honestly think this comes down to like Damian Dunn can't have any bad games, right? He had, he hadn't had a bad game, I guess, until that A&M game. The A&M game kind of was his worst outing of the 11 thus far, and it was kind of worrisome to have that happen simultaneously with Terrance being out for what we could all tell was going to be a long time, if not the year, right in the moment. And so I feel like the big onus there would be like offensively, if they need scoring from that positional spot, can Damian step in and play and be the Damian we've seen play so well in so many games and not the Damian we saw play against A&M, right? I think he can. I'm confident in him. I'm just saying like that's going to be kind of the gamble you were playing. I will say, we know Kelvin. He's going to hedge on the side of defense, so he'll go to Ramon quicker. He loves Ramon because every coach that ever coached Ramon Walker would love Ramon. He plays that kind of basketball. But I could see that being the way he goes. Now, I've had questions, people asking, well, does this mean Sid Lott's going to play more? He's a giant. We don't use any giant guys. Do we need more big guys? And I think that honestly, unfortunately, I don't know that this necessarily means a whole lot more minutes for Sid Lott. It might mean a little bit more. Don't mean to say there won't be any more. But honestly, and I understand he's like 6'9", 6'10", 270. Like he's a giant, right? Super strong, super athletic, etc. But like when he's on the floor, he is still learning the offensive system, the defensive schemes, the coverages, etc. He's very much still picking up the speed of the game while learning those things. Has not played basketball for all that long, relatively speaking, right? And so I understand the desire to play another big guy because Terrance is kind of a nice in-between guy. It's like, let's play more big people because it's basketball. And we think of that being the way to go. But the true forward rotation, as far as none of the tweeners, is going to be Jaywan, JBR, and then Chuck Tugler off the bench, right? And then you're going to have some tweeners. You're going to have Manuel Sharp guarding up, Ramon Walker guarding up, Damian Dunn guarding up. And that's going to be the way we go, right? I love that brand of basketball. I'd always rather guard up than guard down. I think that it's more about like heart and like, you can make up for things like not the size of the dog and the fight, the size of the fight and the dog kind of stuff. And I think Kelvin gets the best out of those kinds of lineups of any coach in America. But I also admit that like when you go play Kansas, they got the big end of Hunter Dickinson. And how are you going to match up with them? I think we've got ways to match up with them that we'll do when we preview those games. But I see the fear in people when we do that. That's just not the team we got put together right now, right? We don't have a bunch of 7-footers. We have the guys that play their butts off and are 6'9". And I think that that's going to be the way we go into those games. Obviously, being down a key player like Terrance hurts your rotation. And we can't just add someone mid-season. Now, that's the way basketball works. You can't just add someone in college basketball mid-season. But in your small business, you probably can just add someone. If you are looking to add someone or hire someone for your small business, you got to have as many top-tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has all the tools you need to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn is not just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Post job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, so the second segment is going to be one that I said, I do get eaten up about a little bit. People are already trying to say Houston's in the Big 12. Houston's number 3 in the AP poll. Houston's undefeated. Houston has like almost double-digit wins by double-digit points. It's absolute insane. Houston's played really, 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 really well thus far this season. And you still see the criticism, less and less from like bigger name analysts, but still there's the criticism that Houston has not played anyone. Stop me if you've heard this before. There's a criticism that Houston has not played anyone. Never mind that Houston has played as many as the second most quad one games in America, which means quad one being the most difficult quadrant within how they scheme people or how they plot people out for the NCAA tournament. Look at the net rating and how many, that's a big factor in the scheme or factor in the thought process or whatever. And how many quad one and quad two wins you have is really important. And Houston has the second most in America. They're 4-0. Only Purdue has more, and they're 5-0. No other team has played more than 3 games in quad one and undefeated in those games. Houston is really, really good, and I'm tired of hearing this. Haven't played anyone crap. They played Dayton on a neutral floor, Utah on a neutral floor, Towson on a neutral floor, at Xavier, and Texas A&M on a neutral floor. I understand that the game was played in Houston. If you know the city, if you know A&M, if you know the University of Houston, if you know, frankly, that the game before them was Texas and LSU. You know that gym was not the same as it would have been in that game that had been played in Fertitta. That's a neutral floor. Whew, I digress. But even with being 4-0 in quad one games and being number one in the net rating being the kind of thing that people hold on to for analytics as far as where to place people in those seedings at the March Madness NCAA tournament. Houston's number one in that right now. And people are still saying, well, but they haven't played anyone. Well. You can't win for losing. I look at other metrics. I go to other places. Shot quality, which is a place that weighs defensive and offensive analytics, adjusted percentages, and adjusted scoring, and things like that, and puts defensive stuff a little bit heavier because defense is more consistent. You have a good shooting night, a bad shooting night, or whatever. Houston is 5th in America in that. Okay, we haven't played anyone. Well, okay, but even when you factor in like all these different things across other types of analytical models and things like that, Houston's still in the top 5. You're upset about being 3rd in the people. I digress. Houston not playing one drives me crazy, but perhaps the thing that I think that settles me down a little bit is that this all goes away when Big 12 play starts. When we start beating these Big 12 teams in Big 12 play, starting on January 6th, West Virginia, things will slow down. All that talk will slow down. But in the Week 6 AP poll, Houston was ranked, I believe, 4th. That's really important. Here's why that's really important. For whatever reason, since the year 2004, the national champion for every season has been in the top 12 of the Week 6 AP poll. I don't know what the magic there is, but I've got to guess. Week 6 is like not preseason rankings. That means that like if you're preseason number 2 in the country and you just weren't any good, actually, you've fallen out of the top 12 by that point. Similarly, if you were outside the top 25, but have shown how good you are to start the season, you're probably moving into that 10, 11, 12 spot, especially with things like those MTEs, the Maui Classics, and those kinds of things, those big tournaments to start the season, the non-conference stuff. That's a chance to show off and it will, launch you into the top 10, 11, 12 spot and get you in the back door of this range. It also is big enough that where if you were like the number 2 team, you've lost 2 games or something, you won't have dropped out of the top 12. Even if you're not going to it's not such a narrow window that you dropped all the way back, right? I think that it's this weird look at like a whole shot as who is good on the season. Houston has obviously been in that this season, meaning that Houston can and should win a national. That Houston is in the same category, in the same conversation as past national champions. You don't get to number one in the net. You don't get top 3 in the AP poll. You don't get top 5 in shot quality. All those things. KenPom, number 1 in KenPom, without having done that. Now, does this bother anyone? Tell me in the comments down below. Does this bother you? Because I think my biggest thing is that it feels like every stumble, every speed bump, every rough stretch of basketball game, seeing within a game, right, becomes this big, bigger than the program criticism on see, they hadn't played anyone and this is when it's going to fall apart, right? So when Houston went through that second half stretch against A&M last weekend where they had trouble scoring the basketball, right? There was big conversation well, is that what Houston's going to look? What if you had a whole game where Houston looked that bad? And what's unfortunate is as someone who watches a lot of college basketball, that's really a stretch that happens to every college basketball team in every game, right? And in every single college basketball game, teams go through scoring droughts. It's game of runs, right? Basketball has always been described as game of runs where teams go on runs. But in college basketball specifically, I said that correctly, I promise. You're dealing with 18 to 22-year-old kids, right? Generally speaking, there's a higher variance in how well they're playing or how well they're shooting there is at other levels of basketball, right? High school, I guess, would be wider, but as you're working into what feels like a professional setting, right, that's a pretty high variance of shooting. And you're also playing, some weeks you're playing 3 games, some weeks you're playing 1 game. You got final schedules, flight schedules, hotel, your body gets all kinds of different, stresses on it throughout all that. It's very, very normal for a college basketball team to go through a 2, 3, 4-minute stretch of just bad offense. It's not uncommon. That mean Kelvin Sampson's not working to correct it. I mean that we're not striving for perfection. But every team has had that. That Kentucky team that went 40-1 of 10 years ago, whatever that was, had that. The national champion UConn last year had that. This is not uncommon. But when Houston does it, it becomes this indictment on, they hadn't played anyone. And so that 4 minutes are going to screw them against somebody. No, it's not. It's not, because it happens to everyone. But Houston wins. Houston finds ways to win. Houston continues to find ways to win. They're 11-0, going on more. We're going to talk in the third segment about how that win streak can continue. But first, if you're trying to win, I'm going to recommend going to do it at FanDuel.com/lockedon, because right now it's getting colder outside, but NFL offers are staying hot. New customers get $150 in bonus bets back by winning any $5 money line bet. That's right, a $5 money line bet gets you $150 just if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action this weekend. Our Houston Texans money line is plus 120 against the Cleveland Browns. Plus 120. Go put $5 down on that. And if the Houston Texans win, $150 back in bonus bets. So go to FanDuel.com/locked on and visit the kick off the NFL season with FanDuel. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. All right, so I said in the last segment I want to talk some about previewing the Texas State game, and I honestly left some space for this to be a rather longer segment because I do want to spend time previewing this game. Now, obviously, a bigger opponent would probably get a full preview episode, and a opponent that I was more worried about would probably get one opponent that had more, we'll say, a more fun matchup would be a bigger full-length episode and so on. But as I look at this game, I see Texas State as a game where you're going to see Houston do a lot of things, but trying to see how to fill, back to the first segment, that hole left by Terrance, right? What can you do offensively with Ramon out there? What can you do defensively with Damian out there? Where can you hedge your bets? Where can you lean into things back and forth? How can you make one feel closer to the other or whatever, right? Now, KenPom has Texas State as 168. There's not the worst team he's played this season, but has Texas State at 168. They're predicting this game based on their analytical models to be a 74-50 win in favor of the Cougs. I would probably hedge a little higher than that. I think you're looking at probably, after watching all of one Texas State game, I know that's low for me. Just one Texas State game to get ready for this. I would probably hedge on the low end, the more than the 24 spread that is on KenPom right now, because frankly, the thing that's going to do Texas State in, and I said this about A&M, I guess, and I was almost wrong. Texas State does not shoot the ball very well from three. And I know I said that about their teams, but they shoot the ball the 330th worst in Division I basketball from the three-point line. There are 333 teams in Division I basketball. Only 3 teams, I'm not even going to look them up, only 3 teams shoot the three at a worse percentage than Texas State. That is to say that with a decent scouting report, which they've had days to do, and some decent court awareness, make them shoot threes. They don't shoot the ball very well there. Make them shoot threes and go rebound. They're not a particularly great rebounding team. They're not full of giants. You'll do just fine with that. Now, they do have a couple of 6'9" guys that they play fairly frequently. Was impressed by 24 Brandon Love. He's a bigger guy for them. He plays much more around the rim. Roll man, rebound man, dirty work man, etc. A lot of layups and dunks, a lot of stuff inside of 10 foot, and frankly, finishes through contact very, very well. That said, I thought Caden Gums, their little point guard, he's like a 6'2" listed, base closer to 6'1", or if not 6 feet tall. He had good energy. I thought he was a pretty good directional kind of guy as far as taking over the floor as a freshman. I would point out too, as a freshman, so it might be better as the season goes on. And then Dylan Dawson for them also looked like the kind of guy trying to get his shots off, a frequent score in the game I saw. And so I would put those guys to keep an eye on. But truthfully, what it felt like they were trying to do is get the ball to Brandon Love inside of about 10 foot, however they're going to do it. Feed it into the post, lob it in on pick and roll, maybe a little high-low action. That's because the team they were playing ran some zone. And just get him the ball to bully ball inside of 10 feet. I don't think he's going to bully Javier Francis. I don't think he's going to bully Jaywan Roberts. I don't think he's going to bully JoJo Tugler. I don't think he's going to bully Ramon Walker. But that's what they're going to try to do, right? That's going to try to do on the short rolls and those kind of stuff is get him the ball more. Now, excuse me, all of those things said, I mentioned at the start of the segment that Houston should be looking to use this game to find out what they want to do as far as finding lineups that replace Terrance. What that means will be that there will be sloppy stretches of this game. There'll be stretches where a group of 5 guys on the floor that might never play together again the rest of the season for Houston because they're trying to find a lineup that works, that kind of gets the stuff out of Damian that makes him feel more like Terrance on the floor, or that gets the stuff out of Ramon that makes him feel more like Terrance on the floor, or whatever, while also allowing Damian and Ramon to be their own guys, right? Because they're not Terrance. They bring different things to the table, right? Ramon's a little dirtier, a little bit grittier, a little bit grimier. Damian's a little bit more polished, a little bit more scoring, a little more mid-range, right? And so you're trying to find ways to handle all of those different things. The lineup juggling will be fun. I'll be tweeting about it. Trust me. So find me on all social media platforms, but especially at Twitter/X at Painsworth512, PAINSWRTH512. I'll be happy to talk about this game live as it goes. It's winter break. Happy winter break to my fellow teachers out there. Thank you all so much for listening to this and the National Signing Day episode. It's awesome to see so many Coogs fans tuning into all different things about Locked On Coogs each and every day here at Locked On Coogs. Again, thank you so much for another listen. Want more listen? You're a basketball guy. You got this far in the podcast. I'm going to recommend Locked On College Basketball. They're also up for a Sports Podcast of the Year awards. Go check out social media where they can show you, they'll point you in direction to where to vote for that. Thank you again, Locked On Coogs, Locked On Podcast. That means your team, our Coogs, every day. Go Coogs.